Hello?
It is. It literally is
Hi.
devastating.
Hi, Kate.
I
That's okay.
needed a fresh coffee. I had to get a fresh coffee.
That's okay.
Before we go any further, I was thinking you are like the original red lipper. Like they say Taylor Swift. I actually say it's you. If I'm to think in my history of red lippers, it's you.
I'm running behind this morning, and just as I look in the mirror and I'm like, I was like, right, the red lips, like something was missing. I was like, literally 2 seconds ago, I just threw it on.
I have never done a red lip. I'm gonna just try it sometime.
It is Jillian Harris, and if you're wondering who we're talking to, it's Jillian Harris, and I want to put this on the podcast because I also want to know: would you ever lip tattoo? Because I feel like if you would, I would consider it.
100%.
You would.
I would.
You
I
first.
Would. Yeah.
Red.
No.
I would red lip tie. I should do that. I'm gonna go do that now. I might go do that.
Okay. And then if you find a great place, I'm gonna fly out to where you go, and then I'm gonna because it's very hard. It's very scary to trust someone with this
lip blushing.
No, I'm one of those people that are like, oh yeah, I'm driving into like the middle of nowhere to somebody's house with like a bunch of Rottweilers in the yard, and I'm like, hey, I'm here for my boob job. Like, I would not trust me. I would not trust me. I've gone to the most random places for like. No, don't.
I feel like that's how we win. I feel like that's exactly that's how you find the good places. If there's no sign and like no, they're legit. If it looks shady,
ladies,
yes.
I don't know about this. I'm gonna help you do some research.
I mean, if she didn't look good, I'd be like, done, sold. I'd have to have someone go ahead of me.
Yeah,
and I feel like if she would do it, I'd be in.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome, Miss Jillian Harris. This is so long
overdue. We have actually never met each other in person. We've never done a podcast together. I think that's so crazy because we're all Canadian.
We're always in Vancouver.
How
you're always here?
Like I swear I'm like the secret missing third link to this thing. I
feel like I know you though. I feel like I know your kids. Like I know it's really weird.
When you girls were on your thing on Times Square, that's a thing, right?
Yeah, three times.
I was there in New York and I was crying. Like I felt like my best friends were up there, and I was like, Justin, I said to Justin this morning, I'm like, I'm podcasting with Cat Nat.
You call me Pat. I like that actually.
Like, remember the girls? Whatever. And I'm like going on, but when we were in New York and you were up there, Justin's like, who are these girls? I'm like, these are my people. These are my people. Like, look at them.
Oh my gosh. And Jillian, when we were like in that moment, we're like, because I think that this happened to Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City when she was going to be in Times Square or something, and all of her friends went there. So Kat and I are sitting there, and we're like, our moms didn't want to come, our husbands, our kids. It's just Kat and I sitting up there being like, woo, nobody cares.
We went to the hotel across the street up to that like cheesy restaurant at the Hilton and like popped champagne and got wasted and watched ourselves over and over again.
Nobody cared. And the other thing was I just randomly went onto your TikTok and just ended up on the TikTok of when you ended up on TMZ with the golf cart, and I was peeing my pants. I couldn't find anything, but I found another beer. That was good.
Oh, I know. And then I shotgunned it.
Yeah, you did.
Those were some of my more problematic days, but I miss those days.
Oh, I know.
I feel like that's what makes you Canadian. Like I feel like that is you cannot take the Canadian. When I tell people we started drinking in like grade 7 or 8, they're like, what? I'm like, in a field. And they're like, what? I'm like, in a park. They're like, no. I'm like, well, that is a Canadian rite of passage. Like you drink in cold weather and fields, reservoirs, and parks.
I went way too young. Way too young.
Very young. Yeah, but it's Canadian.
How else are you supposed to build up a tolerance?
Exactly.
And resilience.
By the time everybody got to university, all of our friends, they were like, people were just trying it for the first time, like, oh, these rookies.
They were American. Welcome. You have so much going on. And for those of you who don't know who you are, which would be crazy.
You're in a coma.
You have like accomplished so much and you do so much, and your aesthetic, which is like, number one in our teenagers' books.
And the core of it, you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I would say I am. And, it's funny because I remember in high school when you went to like, I can't remember what the class was called, but it was like you had to figure out your career and stuff like that.
A career in civics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had to do this big chart, and it was like point, you had to color in the little circles. What was that called? And
I missed that class.
No, I know you're saying that it told you what you would be. Like
and
it was like,
and everybody was like, oh, I'm going to be like a therapist or a dentist or a baseball player. And I was like, and I was like waiting for mine. And they're like, you're going to be an inventor. And I was like, like, what? An inventor? Like, how do I go? And so my whole life, I've been like so self-conscious about this inventor thing. But I recently remembered that and I looked back and I was like, yeah, I guess I am kind of an inventor. Like, yeah, I'd say I'm an entrepreneur, but yeah, I wear many hats.
Like when a lot of us first got introduced to you is when you were on The Bachelor. And I know that like on The Bachelor, I don't, okay, because I can't remember, but they usually say like what the person does underneath it.
Yeah.
In your season, did it have that you did something? And I don't remember what it said you did.
From Canada. I was a restaurant designer.
Oh, okay. Restaurant designer.
Which
was kind of true because you were an interior designer.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, it's a long story. I wish I could really ingrain it in everybody's mind, like really what I am, because I still get emails to this day of people that are like, "Ah, help me with my kitchen layout." And I'm like, "Sorry, Susan, like it's just not what I do." But basically what happened is because I talk for a living, essentially like you ladies, I just saw this thing on Facebook the other day where they're like, hey, for those of you on their report cards that says talks too much, like, what do you do for a living now? And I'm like, now I make money talking too much. But anyways, I got this job at Cactus Club Cafe being creative director's executive assistant. And how I got the job was I was waitressing at Cactus Club in Calgary and I wanted to be an interior designer. I wanted to be. So I self-manifested this and I made myself business cards that said Jillian Harris, interior designer. And I just started telling people, hey, I can help you, even though I had no freaking clue what I was doing. And so when I served the owner of Cactus Club Cafe, he said, like, do you have another job? And I said, yeah, I'm an interior designer. And he's like, oh my gosh,
amazing.
I'm looking for an interior designer to help me design the restaurant. So I was like, well, you've met your match. And so he hired me pretty much on the spot. I got like a real like salary job with a head office they flew me to Vancouver. They moved me up there. And I basically was like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. And now I'm like designing the Cactus Club Cafe.
How old are you? Did you go to post-secondary?
I was like, kind of, but I dropped out of everything.
And then you went to waitressing and then
I feel like you're like 22 being like, yeah, I'm dumb enough to say yes.
He didn't have to ask for a portfolio
to say yes.
Totally. And I screwed up so many things. Like I'm sure it cost Cactus Club millions of dollars, just like having no clue what I was doing. But they liked me and I had a good rapport. So they kept on giving me a chance. And then Scotty started Brown's restaurant. And at this point, he's like, I'm going to train this girl. She's great. She's got like the grit. She can do this. So he trained me and I helped open up all the Browns and all the Pinkies. And I did all that. But I was not happy with my love life. And so then I applied on The Bachelor and they were like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm an interior designer. So I just kept on going with this. And so I did take like one interior design class, like one, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I have good aesthetic, I guess, but I couldn't, if I tried to design a house, it would not go well. And then I got a TV show, then I got Loved or Listed. And they're like,
I know.
I'm an interior designer. So I'm not
but you know
fraud,
what? It's like the really
no. You weren't a fraud. I feel like you were like they believed you. You did it because I think you can go to school and be shitty designer.
Oh my gosh! I bought the house. The house that I bought. Apparently, the woman that lived there before, her job was an interior designer. You would have died at like the color of the walls and everything. I'm like, you could graduate. And then you've just got those friends who have the most amazing natural aesthetic. And you'd much rather hire or work with them than the person who graduated and has mustard colored walls.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
So it wasn't a lie.
Which, by the way, I think are coming back. But
oh God, no thank you. I can't do.
Do you hate like recounting The Bachelor? Like, are you like, I'm so over that conversation?
No.
Or you love it?
I was just chatting with Caitlin Bristow day before yesterday, and I'm like, why don't I get invited to any of these parties anymore? Mostly because I usually say no. I'm in Kelowna. It takes me forever to get anywhere. But I do love that I do love that part of my life, and I'm still obsessed with the franchise. I don't really watch the show, but I just love the concept of it. And
really?
Yeah, and I don't mind talking about it. At one point in my life, I wanted to move on from it, but it's kind of part of who I am.
Yeah. And you've done so much since. It's like it would probably be different if it was like nothing really happened for you after The Bachelor and you're like, I don't want to keep talking about this thing and I have nothing really to show for myself.
Does Justin get jealous that you got to make out with everyone? Then you became The Bachelor. Then
I'm like, that's a loaded question. He gets jealous of everything. Like I got better salary.
Does he like get jealous of you? Like, I mean, I don't know what it would be like to have your love life on a show where you get engaged and then it's in magazines and then you have to explain what wasn't real. You're like, do you know what I mean? The pendulum.
You know, there's some partners that like just don't give a shit. They're like super
Yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
That's not Justin, but that's not Justin, but he is Italian and he is very protective, like of his family, of his people, of his, he's very protective. So yes, he did. He never watched the show, but like when we
Never?
first started dating 11 years ago, I was still friends with a lot of my exes. And so when we first started dating, I was like, hey, we're going to Hawaii. Kipton's there. Let's go for lunch with Kipton. Or like, hey, we're going to New York, and Reed and Wes are there. Like I just stayed in touch with them. And Justin tried to be cool with it, but eventually he was like, I just can't do this. Like,
This is out of my wheelhouse. Like,
and
it's
also,
too much.
Justin is a babe, but also all the bachelors are babes too. It's not like you're going and meeting some like frumpy guy who wasn't like naked on The Bachelor.
And also, most of them, the ones from my season at least, are fun, funny, cool people that I wanted to stay in touch with. And not just because of Justin, but like life gets busy and then they get partners and then it gets get weird after a while. But I really liked being friends with all of them. But yeah, no, it just also I live in the middle of nowhere. So it's
wait, I don't want to say this too, but eventually your kids get older and my kids are obsessed with exes. Like they're like, oh, did you have a boyfriend? Like who? Ooh, you had a boyfriend? I'm like dying for you because you're gonna be like, well, I had many.
And we can all watch it together as a family.
30, but no big, my kids would be like, oh my God. Like they're used to us in the conversations we have, but they would eat that up for breakfast.
Oh, they would love it. They would watch that. Every time we would walk into a room, they'd be secretly watching
and then they would go tell their dad, oh my God, that one.
And they'd play it at school for their friends.
My son has an imaginary boyfriend for me named Garrett, and he's a golfer because my husband's Italian too and does everything on his own, like changes toilets and like there's no way we'd hire someone. And Garrett is a golfer and he pays for everything. Like, you know, the water bill isn't an issue for the pool. My husband was like, the water bill. And I'm like, Garrett wouldn't care about that.
You have to change that name because it's one of my ex's names.
Sorry,
I have to talk to Max about that.
Made it up.
Okay.
How did you guys not sort this out beforehand?
I'll figure that one out.
Yeah, no, I mean, X.
Do we like Garrett or is Garrett just like
he's just the exact opposite of his dad, and he makes fun that I should be with someone who's like
hires people instead of does it.
Someone was like, fix that. Like it's the weekend, and he's like sanding the drywall, and I'm like, oh my God.
You know how you say you live in the middle of nowhere? Do you ever did you ever consider not living there? Or that's where you're from, that's your home, and you would never consider anything else?
So, okay. So I'm an only child and I was born and raised in Northern Alberta, like Peace River, like population 5,000. It's minus 60 there right now. But eventually, including my parents, everybody migrated down to Kelowna. I shouldn't say in the middle of nowhere, but like you can't get a direct flight to anywhere except for like Fort McMurray. And so, anyways, everybody migrated down here. And because it's so beautiful here, it was always sort of my dream to eventually live here. But over the years, I lived in Calgary and Vancouver and then Chicago. And then for a little while, I was kind of like not homeless, but I was like in like New York and like all the LA, all these different places. And then when Ed and I broke up, Ed was my fiance from The Bachelorette. If anybody didn't know.
I remember.
Don't you
lived in Chicago. I remember. I think I watched that. I think I was really how many years ago was that? 100? Because I think I was pregnant.
15
like
years
I feel like because I think I was pregnant when that was happening because I was like, what else am I gonna do? Let's watch this. And I remember you were in yellow, something yellow.
I was like yellow. Yeah, I wore lots of yellow.
It was Is that weird that I remember that? Yellow.
No, because I love and that one yellow dress that you remember was my favorite dress. And one time when Ed and I were together, I was away on a work trip and he had this raging party because that's what he did with all these girls. And a lot of dresses got stolen, including that yellow dress. And I cannot stop thinking about it. I think about it all the time. It's like
sorry, I didn't mean to bring up the yellow dress.
Said big parties with all these girls that stole your shit.
That's like crazy. It was terrible. That relationship was the most terrible thing ever. His current wife.
They did not vet him well. They did not vet that one well for you.
You know how you think you know something in your head and you're so sure that it is that you probably heard things like other things, but you can't even hear them because you believe it to be true.
Yeah.
I thought Tori was your sister.
Tori's my cousin, but we say that.
Oh, cousin, sister, same shit.
Yeah,
it's family.
Totally. Like, it's like you guys being sisters. Tori and Samantha and my cousin Steph, the three of us are all like sisters, but I am an only child.
Oh, okay. And they all live out there with you.
They all, So anyways, I've never considered, recently Justin and I are talking about moving to Calgary just for the kids and the school system and whatnot. And I don't know if we would do that. Like, we're not thinking seriously, but kind of playing around with it. And I love Calgary. Where are you girls?
We're in Toronto.
Oh, you're in
But
Toronto.
when we did a show in Calgary, those
wild.
women
They're
were one of
amazing.
the best.
I just
always
feel like
say
Kelowna is so majestic. I feel
it's
like
so
if you
majestic,
can
yeah.
grow up in Kelowna, and I feel like it's like such a community, and I feel like it's such like a
Are there a lot of schools and options?
Yeah, I mean, I love our kids' school. Listen, like, okay, okay, pause. Do not let me. I want to talk about the school thing, even though it probably wasn't on our schedule today. My cousin Tori lives. I could walk to her place. My mom and dad's is 5 minutes. Same with Sam. Sam, like, my dad goes over to Sam's place for coffee almost every day because they live across the street. So he does like handiwork for them. Justin's parents have a place here. So no, we'll probably never from here. And we just got a farm, and I think we're going to build on there. But anyways, there are good schools here. There's a good private school. There's some good public schools. But the whole idea, everything, I think since COVID for me, I've just been analyzing everything. Work, 9 to 5, hustle culture, the education system, like the kids, like the kids sitting in desks all day and learning the curriculum. And like I grew up like really super creative. I was like, had a lot of like autonomy. I could make, my parents just trusted me like since I was 5 to just make my own decisions. And I just look at my kids and sometimes I just see the little light in their eyes, like flickering out when they go to school. Like that sounds so bad. They have amazing teachers, amazing school. Like
it's not that. I get it. It's a system rather than the people, right?
it's the
Like it's a
system. It's the system. Yeah. And sometimes I just wish that there was like a school like that really honed in on their little individual personalities and strengths and whatnot, and wasn't like, oh, they're behind in reading, or like we're gonna focus on like, I don't know,
I
like
get it.
know how to read.
We feel ya.
I don't know,
100%.
I'm struggling. And again, like I spoil the teachers at school, jelly boxes, wine, collab, like I love them. I so appreciate them, but it is the system that I'm challenged with. So sometimes I think if we move to Calgary, maybe there'd be something different, but I've not even done my research. So
We totally know how you feel.
I think also like it's good to have conversations like that, because otherwise, if you're not, I think every mom and woman sits there, and I think everyone's afraid to say it because change is so hard. So when you actually say it out loud, I think it makes a lot of people be like, oh my God, I'm normal. Like I'm grateful for what I have, but I'm wondering what else there could be that could make things, better or different or curious. Like it's good you can have those conversations, because some people are like, I can't even think that. Like we did
you feel
a
guilty
vision
for
board.
thinking.
Yeah, we did a vision board with a lot of women a few years ago, and they were like, I could never show my partner because like they would be like, that's ridiculous. Like a dream is ridiculous. And I'm like, that's what you don't want your kids to have, is a fear of their dreams or their thoughts or pushing what might be right.
Totally. And you got to keep on lifting up the rocks and thinking like what else is out there and what's possible. And just as far as the school system, I think it will change. It'll be too late for my kids and your kids, but I do think it'll change. And I do think it is up to parents to speak up and say like things are different and we should be teaching different. And a lot of the teachers I know, like, oh my God, we have such good teachers that are like, hey, we're going to skirt around this and do things our own way, which is amazing. But not everybody has that confidence to either.
Anyhow. It's so crazy you say that, as my mom went to go pick up my kids in the school at their old school. And she's like, she didn't even know what she was saying, but she's like, so much has changed in the world. But that sanction is the exact same as when I went 70 years ago. She's like, nothing has changed in the sanction of school in terms of like setup, teaching. And I was like, I'm like, do you know that's really crazy you say that? Because everything should have changed since you have been there 70 years ago.
Totally.
So you've started a bunch of businesses on your own. You have an amazing team of people that you work with. Are you happy with the way how everything is now? Do you continue to grow? Tell us what those businesses are again, in case anyone who's listening don't know what they are.
Well, this is such a loaded question because you're catching me at a very pivotal time. And like people are always like, oh, I'm trying to reinvent myself. But I really I had I call these a mentee, a mental breakdown.
Okay.
A mentee.
Like a real one?
I do often.
Okay. I was like, I
mean, I don't know. I mean, they're all
not
real,
hospitalized.
Not hospitalized, no. But yeah, okay. First of all, yes, I'm very proud of myself. I'm happy with the way my financial advisor, who's also a really good friend of mine, was over for breakfast yesterday. And I just was talking to him about this, and I'm like, I'm kind of at this place where I'm like, huh, I did it. I freaking did. Like I crawled out of a small town, Peace River, Alberta. I didn't really get post-secondary education. I barely graduated by the hair of my chinny chin chin just because I wanted to party and socialize. And everybody used to feel sorry for me as a kid because my parents struggled in their relationship, and they're like, oh, poor Jill, like what's gonna happen to her? And I look around and I'm like, holy shit, like I did it. Good for me. But now I'm kind of done with proving it. Like it's kind of like, what do I want? Like what makes me happy? And truly what I want is just to exist without having to tell people what's next. Like, I just want to go to yoga. I want to go to Costco. I want to meal prep. I like organizing my house. I want to spend more time with my girlfriends. I want to volunteer at my kids' schools more. I want to be more involved. And
you don't want to think. You don't want to think what's next. You want to live with what's. I know this feeling, Jillian Harris. I know it.
It's so funny. This is what I said to Kat last week. I said I had this moment. I was just getting ready in the morning before I came to her.
This is our age. This is our age.
Yeah, right? I know. And I was like, I wonder what it would be like. And I was like, I'm not saying I want it to be this way. I wonder what it would be like if we were to just be doing all those things that you just said. And that's all we had to do. Yeah. And that we didn't have to like, grind and push and to pay the bills. And I mean, so we've created a life that's really expensive. And I'm like, what if, let's just say we had these like really rich husbands and we would just focus on the things, I said, would we keep ourselves busy enough? And of course we would, because we have 7 kids. But I'm like, I don't know how long I want that to last, but I'd like to know what it feels like.
That question is exactly what got me into my current situation, because basically what happened is I didn't really plan for this life. Like, this isn't one of those things where I was like, I wanted to be a doctor and then it just, and then I did it. It just it was kind of like scientific testing. Like I was like, oh, this worked, but this didn't work. And I just kept on going down that sort of the rabbit hole. And then it just kind of happened. But it turned out to be a beautiful thing. And that I did build this empire. So I have the blog, Jillian, the brand,
your magazine, your online magazine, which is beautiful, by the way.
Blog, Instagram, like the influencer, if you want to call it, creator. And then I've got Jilly Box, which is like a curated box of my favorite things. And I try to prioritize like women-owned, Canadian-owned, small shops, yada, yada, yada.
How many years?
We're going on our 5th year.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is like a business that chugs along. It's its own thing. It could almost operate on its own. Like, I'm there, but I do have like a really solid team that runs that. And then we started Jilly Academy, which is like an online video led course that helps other people that want to like get out of their grind and start something new. And it helps them sort of discover like, what would that look like and how would they build that brand and whatnot. And then we have the cookbook with Tori, I suppose. And then Justin and I also built a farm, but that doesn't make any money. That just sucks every single penny out of it.
That's your beautiful hobby.
Yeah, that's a beautiful hobby. So yeah, we have a few different things, but basically what happened is like prior to COVID, I felt like I was invincible. I felt like every single thing I did turned to gold. Everything I touched turned to gold. And it was addicting. And I just was like, I want to do more, not just to make more money, but then I was donating hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was hiring staff, and they were like, this is the best job I've ever had. And I was giving staff like trips and 5-digit bonuses and like paying for their renos. Like,
you can hire. We're available for hire. No, I'm joking.
No, you asked some of these girls. Like, Shay was going to Paris. Like, she got for her birthday, like a Miele coffee machine. Like things are like in 2019, it was amazing. And then in 2020, because of my childhood or just who I am as a person, I operate off of adrenaline. And so 2020 was terrible, but for my business, it actually worked out great because I was in such a fight or flight mode that all I could focus on was my business. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't do anything. I'm just like, okay, what can I do? And that's when we really kind of exploded. But I thought to myself, okay, if I'm going to have this empire and I'm going to hire all these people, mainly women, just because we are marginalized, and I wanted like a place where women could feel safe and could have a good work-life balance, which I'm not sure I always did for my staff, but that could make good money, all these things. And then we could donate money. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll have a foundation and I'll change the world and I'll be Oprah. Like that's how I felt in 2020. And we all worked so hard. We were dealing with like chain supply issues with Jilly Box, and we were starting Jilly Academy. Jilly Academy didn't really do as good as we thought, but we're like, I was like, if I keep on hiring, so we hired. And also then at that time, I found out that like I needed to do better as it related to like my diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And so I'm trying to learn more about myself and some of like the things that I fucked up in the past. Pardon my language. Can I swear here?
Swear it up.
Okay. So there was a lot going on, and then we bought the farm, but I was like still on adrenaline, like still operating on adrenaline. And then all of a sudden it started to feel not fun anymore. It was so hard. And I wasn't doing like what got me into this place was being creative and creating content. But now I'm managing team. I'm dealing with HR issues, finance issues. I'm in strategy meetings, which I fucking hate strategy. And I'm just like, then I started to get cranky and miserable and like not.
And you're a mom on top of this, right? And you're a mom and you're dealing with lockdown and you're trying to like, and you have a relationship with a man, like who lives with you. You know, that's a whole nother issue.
Justin took COVID very seriously. And it's not that I didn't take it seriously, but I was never afraid of COVID for myself. And so I'm one of those people that could like, I would go a stranger on New York and lick their hand. And not thinking.
You're talking to, we are the same.
But so if that was really hard in a relationship, but anyhow, I kept on thinking like, I can do this, I can solve these problems. And so I like hired consultants and I hired HR staff and like, hey, how can I make this work? And then my mom has bipolar, and a couple of years ago, year before last, got so sick that she was hospitalized, like off and on throughout the year, to the point where I'm like, she's gonna die. Like she will die. Like trigger warning, but like she will die from depression. And we all know how people die from depression. And I'm like, this is not good. So all of these things, like everything was coming to a head. Like my work didn't feel natural. I was resenting my work. I was resenting the process. My mom wasn't well. My relationship with I'm trying to be the best wife. I'm trying to exercise. I'm trying to show up here. People want content, blah, blah. I'm like, ah. And then you just said it, you asked yourself, what would this feel like? And one day I just had this fantasy. That I didn't have to do it anymore. Like I'm gonna start crying, but I'm like, I just had this fantasy. What would it look like if I did not have to fucking keep up with this game anymore? And I called Shay and I was like, Shay, I had found out that Shay was pregnant. And I'm like, also, Shay's been with me. For those of you who don't know, Shay's our like VP. She's been with me for 11 years. She's helped me grow all of these brands. And she's about to go on mat leave. And our other person who has been with us for 5-7 years was on mat leave. And I'm like, I know what's going to happen when they have babies. And I am not going to be able to sustain this business without these two girls. And these girls helped me create this. And I don't know if I want to continue doing it without them. I don't want, like, I don't know. I don't want to find a new Mindy. I don't want to find a new Shay. Like, it was what it was. And now I don't know, which by the way, I've been meaning to do a story about all this, but so this is the first time I've ever talked about this change.
It's ironic you're saying it because, I think that this is a lot of us who've been doing this for a long time right now, where you feel like it's changed because now there's an expectation, and that expectation also has other people's expectations. So no longer is it like your authenticity has to be authentically, like it's not just as it was. And I feel like when things change and grow, people can say what they want to now without, it used to be a community and now it's like you're in an open forum with strangers constantly who just constantly want to pick you apart rather than be like, this is a community. So,
and they also remember what you were like 3 years ago, and they see how it's changed.
Yeah. And even what I'm saying right now, people will say like, oh, you're so privileged, you shouldn't complain, you have it so good, and yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how much money I make or whatever. If I'm just not happy, and I'm going to eventually be dead, and I want to be happy before I'm dead.
And you're allowed to say that without anyone coming. The people who are coming at you are the people who are the most unhappy. And I think that that's the truth of it is if you are unhappy with what you have, how can it's like everyone feels feelings of unhappiness and no one knows the full picture. But I think as a woman, when you're trained to grind and hustle so fucking much, and then it catches up to you because you're like, how much more? The pit is endless. And I think that's what we've realized is you can dig forever. Like we could dig until we're 105 and still not get to the bottom.
Justin and I had a spat about our fruit stand because it's too high and it's this. And I'm like, then go find a new fruit stand. Justin's like, I'm just wondering if there's something else that would work. I'm like, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is, but I don't know if I have time to run to HomeSense and run around.
No capacity to find a new fucking fruit stand.
So that you can access your spicy chili oil every morning. But your spicy chili oil somewhere else.
Oh my gosh. You know, Jillian, just like hearing you talk like this, and I think this is probably why everyone has loved you for forever and ever, is you're just like, it's like you're not thinking before you say something.
No, I'm not.
You're thinking how you feel.
But like it's so authentic, and you're not afraid to say, like, you know, that people are looking at you and they're counting on you for all those things that you've done, and they don't want anything to stop. A lot of people want you know, you to be just like that.
Don't change.
And don't change. And because this is what I'm used to. And I don't want it to be any other way. But for you to be able to, as a woman, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, to be able to openly discuss things that you're thinking and analyzing is so relatable and needed, because so many people would not tell anybody.
They'd rather pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Totally. No, and I think, I don't know. I wish sometimes I had a filter, but I wasn't born with one, so that's fine. But anyway, so yes, I'm very happy right now. But in the summer, I had this revelation, and Shay was like, "You're crazy," but I know you're not supposed to say that, but it's okay, it's fine, because I was. She's like, I'm like, I think we just need to downsize. Like, we need to restructure. We need to go back to the original. Like, there's too many people. I'm in meetings all day. Like, I need to do something different. And so it was a very, very hard thing, because I had very talented people on our team, very incredible people, that I was able to shift some of them over to Jilly Box, but I couldn't find a place for everybody. But I just decided to completely restructure, and what my company was a year ago today is not what it is now. Like, as of next month, I'm going to have one marketing person where I used to have 5. And we gave up our office. Basically I have partnerships, which, as you guys know, you know what those look like. Partnerships up until the end of this year for this influencer part of me. And then into 2025, I'm kind of just waiting to see how Shay is once she has a baby. And I'm going to see what she wants to do. And if she wants to come back and give her shit, then we'll come back and we'll figure it out. But if she doesn't want to, then I will focus on Jilly Box, and I will just kind of slow down a little bit. And I'm very, very excited, because I don't know what the answer is. And it's not just up to Shay. It's just, I need to just feel it out day by day. I just need to see, like, instead of going, what's my 5-year plan? What am I going to do? I just need to see, this sounds so hocus pocusy, but I just need to see what the universe has out there. And I just need to decide what's right, what feels right, and what doesn't feel right.
Yeah. It sounds like you need to see what it feels like. You need to live it to see what it feels like before you're like, that's what I want to do. You want to feel it and then be like, I like that, or I don't like that.